We are live on multiple platforms. Guys, let's wait for some time to join so that you join in. So we are live on Facebook. We are live on our Facebook group, on YouTube, on everywhere else. So PitchGrounders, how's everything going? Let's wait for the people to join in. In today's webinar, which is about Google Tag Manager, and we have the founder of Voxpow, Simeon, who is going to show us hands-on, practical, without any slides on how you can actually use Google Tag Manager and learn more and how to actually use it to set up the things with your website. So Simeon, how's everything going?
Hi everyone. So everything is good. I'm ready for today's event. I prepare some practical things, like Meenank said. So I hope you like it. And it's important to see how the things are go in practice, not just on theory. So I hope you like this webinar and post your
Awesome.
questions in comments.
Awesome, guys. At any point of time in the webinar, if you have any kind of doubt, you can leave the questions in the comment section down below, and we have a dedicated Q&A section at the end of the webinar, where we will answer all your questions. So yes, feel free to leave any kind of questions in the comment section down below. So guys, in today's webinar, we're going to talk about everything about Google Tag Manager. Even if you're starting from the basics, even if you don't know what Google Tag Manager actually is, or if you have never used that tool before, this is the webinar that you need to watch and clarify your doubts, because we're going to go through from basics to advanced of Google Tag Manager. Isn't that right, Simeon?
Yeah, we will start for sure in the beginning, so for the beginner level. But it is very complicated and big tool, not so complicated, but it is big, a lot of things to cover usually. And yeah, we will start with the basic and go through the intermediate. I'll show a lot of things, but the most important here are the concepts and why you should take more about Google Tag Manager, read more about this and why you need to use this and how you will improve your websites at all and your organization and your marketing and so on. So yeah, the basics and the concepts, and we are going through more interesting topics and more advanced topics later on.
Awesome. So we have a ton of other webinars planned with Simeon in the future. We're going to talk about technical SEO. We're going to talk about Google Tag Manager, etc. So guys, you are in for a surprise on all our future webinars. So as soon as we post the event, make sure you hit going or interested to get notified so that you can don't miss out on all the value that we're going to provide today. So Simeon, who do you think should use Google Tag Manager?
Google Tag Manager is basically for almost every website owner which wants to track the conversions and to track the users and so on. So basically, if you use Google Analytics, it is most likely that you need also Google Tag Manager because the two tools are very good to combine, and they can help you organize everything in more proper way and have everything in one place. So it is basically for almost every website owner. So yeah, it is a really useful tool, and you'll see in the practice in my screen for how many websites I use. I'm happy that they have a search, so I can find the websites I will show on. So yeah, it is really helpful tool.
Awesome. So before we get started with today's webinar, Simeon, how are things at your end? Simeon is from Bulgaria. I'm from India. It's about 8 p.m. in India. Where are you joining in from? Guys, leave a comment down below. Which city or which country are you from? We would like to see who exactly is joining this webinar, and because the amount of value that you're going to get from this webinar is going to be epic if you stay till the end. So Simeon, how are things in Bulgaria?
Everything is normal. So it's starting to be the summer is ending now. From tomorrow we will get some bad weather, but yeah, it's September, so a lot of work is currently on, and everything here is busy. A lot of cars on the streets, and yeah, it's busy days. So
True, true. So we've been getting comments, and we got a comment from Graham, who is our most popular pitch grounder who attends all our webinars. Graham from Sydney, we love you. Thank you so much for attending this webinar as well. So there are many people that are going joining in today's webinar, and that's because people are actually keen to know about the Google Tag Manager and how they can use it and to learn more about it.
Yeah, I see in practice that a lot of guys usually heard something about Google Tag Manager, but don't know in fact how this could help their website. Or is it worth to use this in order to combine with Google Analytics, or what's the purpose of Google Tag Manager at all? So I'll try to start with the concepts why you need this, and you decide later on if this is the tool for you, or you just want to install Google Analytics in your website without any helper tools or something like that.
Yes. So I guess it's summer in Sydney. So yeah, it's actually pretty chilly in India, by the way. So yeah,
Yeah, different here. Here it's
different time zones and different countries. That's the
yeah,
beauty of going remote and
for sure.
and truly embracing the remote way, because there are so many people in this webinar joining in from different countries. You're from a different country, I'm from a different country, my team is from another different country, and the diversification, especially due to COVID, I think this is an amazing thing that has happened to the workforce. Like people are hiring remote developers, etc.
Yeah, for sure. It is a big topic, and it is very good to work remotely, both for the companies, both for the workers. So, for sure, it is something which the companies should adopt in future if they still don't use it. So, remote workers are most of the time very competitive in terms of doing the job in time manner. So the only difference is the time zones and the switching and the adapting. So
Exactly, Graham. It's just one big family. We are looking to like add value to each other, and that's how PitchGround is. And yes, you conveyed it in a nice manner. So Google Tag Manager is the missing link for me. I don't know much about it. Graham, you're in the right place. I'm not gonna waste much time talking. So I guess Simeon can share his screen, and we will begin the show. So
yeah,
Graham, you're in the right place. Ask any doubt you have in any point of the time, and we will answer all your questions. So Simeon, let's share your screen and let's get started with today's webinar about the Google Tag Manager. Yes,
okay. Do you see the screen?
yes, I'm seeing the screen.
Okay, so yeah, we are starting. So like I said, the today's lecture will be most of the time for intermediate, and the beginning level will cover some of the most advanced topics, but it is a really huge topic, and we cannot go through for this amount of time. But the most important is to know the concept and why you need this, and to have all the information that will help you to decide if this is the tool for you, or it is just another tool and you don't want to install to your websites and so on. So Google Tag Manager, like you can see from the naming, it is a product from Google, and basically it allows you and it helps you to combine every code snippet you can install in your website in one place. So it can help you to organize every thing which you want to install in your website, including Google Analytics, including some other metrics you want to cover, like Yandex Metrica and so on, including Facebook pixels, including Twitter pixels, and so on. So basically, you can do this from single place and not changing your website code every time you want to add something new, or you just want to remove the thing. So it's basically help you to organize everything in the most proper way, install something from just few lines of code, remove it, just pause it to see how the things will go, and so on. It is always the true for Voxpow. Our tool can be installed via Google Tag Manager also, so it can help you for installation for such code snippets like Voxpow and some other things, which are basically JavaScript. So it can give you a door to your website, and you can install whatever you want and track easy what is happening on your website. One other use case you can use for using Google Tag Manager could be the measurement of clicks and to see how the user clicks on which buttons, and connect this very easy to Google Analytics and track how the clicks could affect after that the performance or your campaigns. So basically you can track some things which are very hard to perform without Google Tag Manager. I will show you later on, but first we are on conception level. So Tag Manager can help you for measuring. It is not just the door for installing code snippets and managing those parts, but it can help you to track clicks, also to track how the users can scroll down, for example, to measure if they scroll down and 50% going down to 75% and so on. So basically it is a good way to add the interactivity which is needed to track everything on your website. And that is the main concept. It is a big tool. It is very easy to install it. So I'll show you how to do this. But you can see, for example, I'm on this page. There is some social proofs on that page. So, for example, Airbnb improves the vendor data up to 90% with Tag Manager and so on. You can check out this page. There is some resources to learn. Also, there is Google Analytics Academy where you can find some videos. Also, but for sure, it is big tool, and you need to spend some time in order to understand how it works exactly and to see how you can adapt it for your needs for your website. So this is the main page. You can see when you enter in Google Tag Manager, you open this page. You need a Google account, and when you're ready, you can just sign in and start for free. I'll use this interactive tool to mark up something, so in order to see the things better. And yeah, that's the starting screen. You need a Google account in order to proceed and going further. And when you go to this sign in into Tag Manager, you see this screen with all your accounts and all your containers. So basically here there is some levels of organizing the Google Tag Manager containers and accounts. If you want to create new account, for sure here it will be blank, and you just need to create an account here. So an account, we could say that it is basically a website. Here we have more easy to understand structure. You basically can write down your company here, choose your country, and enter the container name, which in most cases is your website domain name. And you can see here that there is a lot of options to track. Most of the time you need the web. If you have a website, you need this option. So going through the web option is your best thing, and choose this and continue further. You create your basic account. Currently I will not create an account. Maybe if we have needs to do so, we'll get back here. So when you create an account, it is this step only, so it will be really easy to create one. Just need to enter your website domain and your company name. You go in this this page. So basically it is one website, and here we have some settings. First, when you take a look of this, it can be a little bit complicated to understand because there is a lot of buttons, a lot of things to consider. You have workspace tab, versions, admin, and so on. The critical thing here, I'll change the container now in order to be a website which is more familiar to you. So when you create an account, you get a little pop-up with the installation code. So it is really important to have this installation code, which is obvious to install to your website. So you can, after that, check this code here from the admin section, and going into install Google Tag Manager, you can get the code if you, for some reason, close this pop-up and you forget where to find your installation code. And when you click this, you basically have this code. There is two parts. The first part you need to put in head section, and the second part you need to put in body section of your website. So that is the only thing you need to do in order to start using Google Tag Manager to your website. So just install in head section, and in body section the different code snippets you see here. So they are you don't need to understand them, but for sure it is good to keep these recommendations and install it in head and after that in body. Usually, if you don't have the ability to do so, you can just put these codes one under another. So the first one to be under this one, and everything will start working even in head section. But I recommend you to put this in body tag, because the second code snippet is basically for events which are not so easy to catch without JavaScript. So if you read about it, is no script tags, and here it is more for users who don't have JavaScript enabled. So it is good to have them installed on your website. And maybe your question could be, how should I install this? In the most common question should be, how should I install this in WordPress? Because most of the time the users use WordPress for their websites, and I can show you. So it is a WordPress installation. Here you can go, for example, in plugins. If you perform a little search, you'll see that probably there are some plugins for installation of Google Tag Manager. Maybe you could try some of them, but I prefer to do this manually. So to perform the installation more on more native way. For sure, the plugins could make the same job, but on that way, which I'll show you now, you have more control of what is happening, and you can delete the thing very easy, and you basically make the installation on the way the Google recommended. So basically we're following all the instructions from Google. And the plugin which I use most of the time is header and footer post injections, which basically allows you to add different code snippets in your website, including Google Tag Manager and so on. So I just installed this plugin, and when you go to the plugin and see what the plugin can allow to do, you'll see that you have a place to add the code in head section and just after the body tag. So as you remember, that are the instructions from Google Tag Manager, and you just can copy and place this on the right place, and usually everything should start work. Now this one is not for this website. I'm just showing you how the things will be if we start from scratch and have this section. So if you create your own Google Tag Manager account and container, you have a different here code, and you just need to put this code in your WordPress and you start using Google Tag Manager. So that's the installation part. If you have some different type of website, you need to maybe change your template and add this code snippet. So there very similar to the approach for installing Google Analytics. So it is pretty straightforward to install this and to start using it. So when you are ready with this, you could spend some time in this dashboard. Important topics to cover here are those in left. So here you could see that we have folders, templates, variables, triggers, tags, and the main is overview. What is important here to know are we could start with the variables. For sure, there is a lot of things to cover, but we are going through step by step without messing too much in depth with some parts which you not probably use. So variables is the first place you could spend some time and check out what is here included. When you create an account and when you open an already created account, you see the two sections. You have built-in variables and you have user-defined variables. What is the difference? The difference is self-descriptory. The built-in variable are already here for you, and they're predefined for you from Google Tag Manager. They are common variables you can use. And the user-defined variables, you can make your own variables. They could be, for example, a constants. They could be a different DOM elements. So DOM element is basically apart from your HTML. So it can be a very different things. And that's the power of Google Tag Manager, because you can add some specific parts from your website. And for example, add a variable for currency of your payment page and so on. So you can adapt this to your specific website and make it work for you. So the first thing when you go here is to think which variables you need to configure, because when you create an account, not every built-in variable will be turned on. And what is the purpose of the variables? Basically, the variables will help you with the making after that the triggers and the tags, which are the next topics. But that are the key parts from your measuring campaign, let's say. So the variable could be a click, could be an event, could be a currency, or something else which could be get from your website and put it in triggers on or tags. You understand what the triggers and tags are in few minutes. So you need to go here when you create your account first. You need to go in configure and see what variables are currently turned on. A very common problem, and I think you spent a lot of time if I don't say that thing, is that by default, in most of the time, the click events are not turned on. So for example, those here are not turned on, like in this case. And if you want to measure clicks to your page, for example, if you have a e-commerce website or any kind of website basically, and you want to measure the clicks, and if this is not turned on, you will not see anything on your website, and you basically not measure anything. And that's why you need to keep in mind that these configured built-in variables are something you can turn on and turn off basically, and you should spend some time here and see if the thing you want to measure is turned on or switched off. So for example, if you want to measure clicks, you need to enable those. And there is a lot of options, and basically it could help you to do some things. For example, if you want to measure the click based on the ID of the element, you need to enable this. And it is true for click classes. If you want to catch a clicks to your website catched from element classes, you need to switch this on, and so on. So you could also measure a click and catch a click by text, which is not always the best option, but it is an option. So you could turn it on, you can measure the click URL and the target also. So it is true for other type of elements like forms and form classes and so on. So basically you have all variables here, and my recommendation is to use those only if you want to measure this specific thing. So for example, if you don't want to measure a videos, you're not it's not a good practice to allow this, because every of these option you see after that in the live debugger, but every of this option is making something. And basically, if you want to keep your website speed in a good way, good terms, and not turn it on everything, it is good practice to not switch this on if you don't use it. So basically, the clicks are something which is very important most of the time to switch on. And yeah, we perform some changes here. You see that here the ticks are still marked, so they're turn it on. But you should notice here a little thing that we have a workspace changes which are equal to 6. So it is the other thing it's worth to mention, that not every change you perform in the dashboard is taking in place immediately. So you could, for example, add some triggers, add some tags, change some built-in variables and so on, and you'll see nothing in your front-end side. And a lot of people is wonder what is happening, because they are not see the changes they perform. And the key is that there is workspace changes which are not published, and if you want to publish them, you need to perform the submit and go through a simple process which is very similar to pushing a code if you're a programmer to a repository. So you need to give a version name, which is not a mandatory field, but it is good to have it for your own purpose when you go back and see what you've done in the past. So if you want, for example, to put these changes in your website, you need to add some descriptive names. So for example, something like this. And you need here, you can give more description, but most of the time you don't need this, and you just need to press publish. Now with that action which we perform, we basically turn on the clicks on our page, and we should also see the clicks on every part of our website where Google Tag Manager is installed. So as you remember, it is just a little portion of everything. So variables are something you can define, you can turn on and switch it off. And it is the building part for the next big topic, which is the triggers. The triggers basically are actions which could, like the naming said, trigger the tags. So basically we are going further in the hierarchy. So we have the variables which the triggers used most of the time. So for example, here we have a different trigger. If you create a new account, you don't see any triggers. So you need to define them from scratch. And for example, what could be a trigger? You can press new and see how many options you have. So basically, a trigger, you can think for trigger like an event you want to catch on your website. So basically, if you want to track clicks to a button, you need to create a trigger which is fired, and the tag, which is the next level, is doing the work you want. So basically, the trigger is just the action you want to measure and to catch. And for example, one of the things you want to measure almost all the time is the clicks. So for example, you can choose here which clicks you want to measure, the all elements and just links. Here, the difference between all elements and just links are that the clicks could be done not only on the links, but you can perform clicks also on buttons. And if you want to measure a button click, you need to switch on all elements. And that's the key difference here. And you can also measure a lot of different things. So you could measure a page view. So for example, if you want to trigger a page view for some specific page, you could make this here. So choose the page view. And after that, you see that everything is interactive. There is another switches you got here, and it's radio buttons. And for example, if we configure this trigger, we need to give this a name. But if this is for our website, and for example, we want to make this trigger to be activated on some specific URL, we could here choose the variables we already defined and or already switched on. And you'll see here every variables which are available for the triggers. So if you don't see something you want, you can go back to variables and configure or just enable it if it's built in. So for example, if you want to measure some page view and you want to catch it, for example, the page path, I'll show you later on how you can see all these settings, because now you are flying blind, so you don't know what you're doing exactly and you need to test it. There is easy way to do this, and I will show you in some minutes. But here, for example, it's the page path, and you can for example, set that you want the trigger to be active when the page path contains, for example, block or something like this. So it is up to you and your website, whatever triggers you want to set up. But if you want, for example, to set up the trigger and after that attack, which should be fired also to some pages, it is a good practice to make it like that. So page path, which contains the specific URL you have, and after that you can trigger the action you want. So the use case for this could be, for example, you want to install Voxpow and or some other chat, live chat, for example, to some specific page. For example, you want to install it only to blog section or some other section you can catch by URL. You can do this very easy with Google Tag Manager. So you just need to create a trigger which should be fired on this way to specific sections you choose, and after that create the tag, which I'll show you how to do, and everything will be set up. So you have the power to make the setting where the code snippet should be activated with those triggers. So there is a lot of options here. You can after the webinar, you can spend some time look for these triggers, but we have a lot of built-in trigger, including timers, including errors, which is very interesting. So you basically can trigger some event when you have JavaScript errors. There is custom events, which can be called from JavaScript code, which sending events, and you can trigger some marketing tool and so on. So you have a lot of power. You have the scroll depth, which I'll show you how we make it in one website. So for example, if the user is in blog section and he scrolled down 50% or 70%, you'll see this in Google Analytics. So you could measure how your users scroll to your content and to which pages. So the triggers are here. The most used are the clicks, like I said, and the page view DOM ready also. What is DOM ready trigger? So basically, when all your content is ready, the JavaScript rendered all the content on your page, and everything is ready and can be processed from JavaScript code snippets. It's a little bit time for most advanced presentations, but you should know that DOM ready is basically when all your content is ready, and in some cases there could be some difference between page view and DOM ready if your JavaScript content is rendering slowly, let's say. So most of the time you need page view, DOM ready, and elements clicks. So that's from the triggers. I'll show you after that, because you need to see it for sure one more time how the things are going. We set up a complete example. We could discard these changes, and you can see here we have some triggers I'll go through later on. And maybe the most important thing is the tags. You can see that it is in the naming of the tool also. So it's Google Tag Manager. So it is on the top on the hierarchy. We have the variables, which could be included in triggers and also tags. But on the top are the tags. So the tags are basically what we want to be performed and what we want to be included on the specific trigger. So basically the trigger attack. So what could be a track? For example, here in that container, you can see that an example of tag is Google Analytics based tracking. And that is a good place to say that naming the tags, the triggers, and the variables is crucial in order to understand what is hiding behind this naming. So here we have the good naming, Google Analytics base tracking. So it is the base Google Analytics tracking code. We could think about it like that. So here this tag is basically when you go like this, you see that it is universal analytics, which is the most common, and you see this on the top of every tag. And you can see that track type is page view. So basically it is when someone go to the site and perform a page view, basically trigger a page opening. You send this event to this Google Analytics ID, and Google Analytics ID is basically just a variable like in the normal variables. If you don't have such defined in the beginning, you can press new variable and create Google Analytics settings. Google Analytics setting variable is just your tracking ID. So it is not some fancy thing. And if you go to Google Analytics account, for example, let's change to be in English in order to be more understandable. When you create Google Analytics profile, or you already have such, you can get your tracking ID from admin section, and after that going through tracking info and tracking code. Here you can see that tracking ID is like this. It is the standard Google Analytics tracking snippets, and you just need not to copy this code here, but just go here and copy this one and create it like this. So you basically will have a tracking ID if you don't have this variable already defined. So it could look at the first glance more complicated to make everything. There is a lot of pop-ups which basically show up from the left, from the right, and so on. But it's really good to use it when you spend some time and you see how it goes. Here you should give a good naming, for example, Google Analytics, something descriptive, and you see the things like that. It's already created, so you see Google Analytics ID, for example, and you should choose the firing triggers. So when you go here, and for example, we could remove this, and you see here on that page that you already, beside of those which are already see in the trigger section, you have one which we don't see there, but it should be here on that page. It is all pages. So basically we don't set this up manually, but it is here. So basically it is the most used one. So it is to use on every page where Google Tag Manager is already installed. So if you have Google Tag Manager installed to that page and you choose the trigger all pages, you have all the settings, all the tag you perform on this trigger. So it is a good idea, and you should turn Google Analytics on all pages. So that's why here all pages is chosen. And that is an example of tag. You could have, for example, very large list with tags. I'll show you later on a different website where we have even more bigger list. And one very common question is how could we set up Facebook tracking via Google Tag Manager? Short answer, yes, we have. The long answer is that we have for sure, but we need to spend some time and define what actions we want to complete. So for example, in this case, we have the Facebook base pixel. It is just a tag here with the Facebook tracking code, and we fire this on all pages. So nothing too complicated. We have nothing fancy here. We just have one tracking code on all pages. And after that, for example, you want to track if someone completed a registration or perform a search, let's say, because it will be easier to show. And here we have, if you go to Facebook, you'll see that they have a code snippet for performing a search. So if someone goes to our website and perform a search, you trigger this tag and we will send the event to Facebook. Sorry. So basically, it is the code snippet which we got from Facebook, and we have this on triggering when someone perform a search on our website. So to be triggered, what is the next step? It is to set up a trigger. So we have the trigger, which is basically the search page. Now we get up with a trigger, which we catch up. So we know that this is the good page to be triggered, getting by page URL, which contains this one. So we have this query parameter here, and we know that we perform a search when we see this one in our specific page on searches. So it could be different for your website, but for sure you can investigate what type of triggers you want. So the trigger type here is page view, and most of the time is page view if you want to set up some specific triggers based on page URL. So for example, if you want to track up the blog section, like I said, you need to set up page view and page URL, which contains this little text you have in your URLs for the blogs. There is a good question. You could imagine that in some cases you don't have these URLs. The question could be, are we able to track these cases? So we are able to do this, but it is a little bit more complicated. So basically, Tag Manager gives you all the opportunity to track everything, but in some cases you need to write a little bit of JavaScript. That's why it's always good to learn JavaScript in some minimum level, because it will help you for a lot of things, including Google Tag Manager for sure, but also in Google Analytics for some type of goals, destinations, and so on. And also in Google Ads, you can also put some script and Google Docs and so on. So the list is very long, but JavaScript is also is all the time good to learn. And yeah, here it is the search page, and it is the tag we send up when the user come to this page, and it is triggered by this trigger you already see. What is important here, when you have this type of ordering, you have this snippet, but you have another one, which is the Facebook main pixel, and Google Tag Manager allows you to set up tag sequencing. So you can define which tag to be triggered after the other. So when you go here, you see this little section. It's open up, and you can see that In tag sequencing, we can define that we want to fire a tag before Facebook pixel search fires. So we set up the base tag first, and after that we set up the search tag because we need to have the initialization of the main Facebook libraries. So that is specific to Facebook pixel, but here you can see that we have for example, if someone starts the checkout, we will see this, and the schema is the same. It is just after the base tag, and we figure we trigger this on different step. So we have basically a different trigger. Here the trigger is regex, which is a little bit more complicated, but you can make this on different ways. One of the way I found here more clear is to have this regex, which is a regular expression, and it is not so complicated like it looks. So it is just this this thing which basically covers all the strings we have in this parentheses. So it is just one combination of symbols you need to memorize, and you can use it also in Google Analytics and here in Google Tag Manager, and for sure in Google Ads. And yeah, that is the tags overview. Here, for example, I can show you it is our own tracker. So it is basically installed via Google Tag Manager. We also have, like if you use WordPress site, it is good practice to use the WordPress plugin, but in some cases I could also recommend to use this method via Google Tag Manager, because currently you have more control. So for example, if you want to enable the voice search, in this case for some specific page, you could make it like this, but choose a trigger which is not all pages like here, but for example you can define here your own trigger. So for example, blog section or main page or just some thank you page or just some other page which has a lot of input fields, and you can make such trigger and fire this tag only on that page. So Google Tag Manager can give you more control on that, what you want to do with your tag. So for example, we have also some other libraries. You see here, we organize everything on that way, because the alternative of this one should be, if we get back to this WordPress installation, the alternative should be here to have not this snippet, but I have 10 snippets here on every page. After that, I need to look up for plugin for Facebook. I need to install it, but not sure if it works. So I found in my practice to be more easy and more straightforward to use Google Tag Manager for every similar task and tools which you need to install it and put something in head section basically, or put some JavaScript code on your website. So the easy solution in long term is Google Tag Manager, because you can monitor. You can, for example, if you see that something is not working fine, you just need to enter here in the console and just press pause, because you can pause a tag without deleting. Here, for example, you just need to go here and make the pause or unpause, and so on. So you have all the control of this, and you can have single point where you can monitor everything. When you have more tags, it is good practice to have folders where you can organize. So for example, you have a folder for Facebook. You see here that we have a lot of tags which are related to Facebook, and we can just go here and put them in some folders. So for example, we choose Facebook, and these folders will be these tags will be organized on a little bit different way, and you can after that go here and see every tag which is related to your folders. So it is a good practice, but when you have more tags and you want to to use more extensively Google Tag Manager for 5, 10, or 15 tags. I prefer not to create folders, not to add additional complexity. And something else I want to show you, which is very important, and I use it all the time when I use Google Tag Manager, is sorry, it is the debugger. I'll switch the website because here I can show you some other things. It's a Bulgarian website, but that's not the issue here, I hope. So here we have some website which is looking nice, and what we want to do is to see how Google Tag Manager is basically working on that website, because we say that we install it, but can we verify this? How to see if we measure the clicks and if we fire events and so on? Is it working at all, or it is just a fancy tool? So we can verify this when we go in our dashboard and just click preview, and we will see what will happen. Here we will get an orange message that the preview workspace is enabled now, and we could go in our website, which we think Google Tag Manager is installed, and just press enter. And hopefully we will see this debugger, which is only for us. So the customers which come to this website will not see this, which is something good, I believe. So yeah, you see this debugger only you, because you enable it from Google Tag Manager dashboard, and you see here a little summary and a lot of information, like you can imagine. And what is interesting here is that you can see how much the how the clicks is basically working. So for example, if I click here in the workspace in the blank, I'll see that something is happening. If you take a look here, you see that every click here is recorded, and what is good is that I can get some meta information, so I can see what this click is about. So I can see if I click to button, if I click to some specific place, and so on. So it is very good to use this debugger, and in some cases it is impossible to set up everything without this. And here you can see, so for example, if you go to window loaded, it is a common thing. So you need to go here if you need to catch up all your variables, and you see basically what is the value and what is the name of your variables which you already have defined in your Google Tag Manager. So if you have a custom variables, you can go here and check out what the value is. So for example, it is good to know that you can see this in window loaded when it's pressed here and here in variables. You see, for example, every variable which I define in Google Tag Manager, what value it have now. So it is a variable device type, and the value is desktop, so it works. And I have some other variables. So for example, if you want to check what the variable page path is looking, so for example, if you want to take a look how it is, the URL is formed, is it include the protocol, the two slashes and so on, you can go here in window loaded debugger, check the variables, and see how every variable is represented on that specific page. So for example, if you go to a different page, the debugger will still show when you don't switch it off from Google Tag Manager, and you can repeat the action, and you see the values here are different. If they should be different, so device type is the same, obvious. So you can go here and see that page path is different, and it basically corresponds to what we have here in browser, so it should work. And yeah, page URL is the full URL. You can use page path or page URL if you want to make your own trigger. It's up to you what you prefer to do, but you can check for every specific page how the things are constructed here. So it is really helpful. And let's back to the clicks, because we start with this. If you go to some product and you want to track add to favorites or some other buttons, you can make this. When you click on the button, you see here that we have a new summary, let's say a new event, which you can take a look, and you can see that it is event. And when you go to the event, basically like this, and you see when you go to event and the variables, you see the variables which are related to this specific click. So window loaded is something different, because you check out what we have to the whole page and the whole page view basically. But when we go to a click, you can see that here we have click ID. So if this button have ID, we'll see this here, and we'll see click text, which here is very obvious. So you can see that the text are here the same. So the click text is something you can use, but like I said in the beginning, maybe it's not the best thing to use, because for example, here you see it is in uppercase, but if you made a mistake and make it in lowercase, you can have some mismatch on that topic. So if you have a click ID and click class, it is always the best to use this, but it depends to the website basically. So you should be careful about this. And if you want to track this specific thing, you can catch it on a different ways. For example, like I said, click text and so on. And you here you can take a look that we already have such tag already defined, and you can see that it triggers something. We can go in Google Tag Manager to see what this tag is about. So we can go here and we can see this tag here. It is Google Analytics, add to favorite, and let's see how we make it. Basically here the tag, we need to define what to do. So we want to send an event to Google Analytics, and event should have the category and the action add to favorite. So here this step we are sending when the track is triggered and fired, we are sending the event to Google Analytics, and Google Analytics can catch this and make it like a go, and we can set it up. So if you want to see it with your eyes, I can show you here that this specific click is should be recorded in Google Analytics. When you go to a real-time and event, because we send the event, you can see that here we have the event category and event action, which is obvious the same like here. So basically it works, and it sends the event to Google Analytics, and we are able to catch this and to perform some action like setting a goal or something like that. And the triggering is here. We have a trigger and we can inspect it to see what the trigger is. So the trigger is click text and something on Bulgarian. And like I said, in most of the time you need to define some clicks which are related to ID or classes, not to text, because you can easily change this. For example, someone changed the add to cart button and so on. So here we don't have much information about this click, except the text. If we have it, we need to use it. The other interesting tag I want to show you is the Google Analytics scroll depth. I already told you some words in the beginning. So the action of the tag is the same. We are sending an event to Google Analytics, and we could measure this scroll depth to some specific page. And the interesting here is the firing trigger, sorry. So here you can see that we have a trigger which is scroll depth. It is built in, so it is not, we don't write this from scratch, but it is built in. And we can choose, for example, the vertical scroll depth and percentage equal to 50. If we want, we can separate by comma and add some different value, but most of the time it is good to measure when the user is scroll down 50% to your web page. And we add here an additional rule that this trigger fires only on some pages. You can see here that we add on some pages, and this page contains some long thing. So the hard question is how to see that we need this exactly string to catch up the body class, and it is a little bit complicated uh, to understand in the beginning maybe, but it is just a variable. So we just define a variable which extract the body class. I will show you, but it is more complicated complicated topic. So maybe if you are a beginner, you will not understand in the right way, but you should know that there is some things to extract from your page. So here the scroll depth will be fired only if the user go to 50% of your page and the page body class contains something. Yep. So let's get through this variable first, and I will show you how this works in practice. It is user-defined variable, and it is page body class, like you see the naming, and it is custom JavaScript code. You see on this website, we have a lot of custom JavaScript codes. And when you inspect this, you see that it is anonymous function, which basically has no name at all. And it gets an element by tag name, and it returns the body class. So when we define such function here, and when we go to inspector, we can see that for every here value of this, the naming was, when we go here, for example, and the naming page body class, here we have this naming. So we extract basically the body class of this specific page. When you go to the code and inspect, you'll see that here this value match this value here. So it's basically the idea. So every page most of the time has a different class and so on. So you have all the methods to extract this information with such functions. Here we have a lot of those. They are very similar. If you're not programmer, they could looks very strange for you at first glance, but they are not so hard to do, and you can very quickly verify if they are working. So for example, if you just copy this one and paste it in your inspector in right button and click inspect and put it here in the console, you see that this variable has extracted the value from the body. So it's a little bit complicated if you're not so familiar with JavaScript and programming, but you should know that everything could be extracted and put into Google Tag Manager. And there is another topic, which is data layer, which is something advanced, and you can use it to send some information inside and to perform some advanced actions.
I'm sure we can discuss the advanced in the next webinar.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of topics to cover, and for sure a big thing. So when I have, because I said in the beginning, I have some lectures in the university, Google Tag Manager most of the time took 4 hours for everything. So we will not spend.
Guys, do you want, let's ask the audience themselves. Guys, whoever is watching this right now, do you want another follow-up webinar for Google Tag Manager? Tell us in the comment section down below. Your vote is going to decide whether we will do a second webinar explaining in depth on the topic of Google Tag Manager. Let us know in the comment section below, yes or no. That's right. We're going to choose and look at the comment section down below.
Yep. Yeah, the beginning is maybe not so easy, but when you go in depth, there is very interesting topics also to cover. But mostly, maybe for most of the users, the beginning is just enough to get started, because most of the time they just want to install some code snippet and not spend too much time to track everything. But yeah, depends on the interest, so the users can decide.
Yes. So we are getting so many comments. We are also getting so many questions. So guys, this is the Q&A section. Hristo, that is in Russian. So
No Russian,
yeah.
Bulgarian.
So yes, Chris Hristo says yep, and that's
Thanks,
right.
thanks.
We are getting so many yeses. We're gonna do a follow-up webinar on the Google Tag Manager. Until then, let's answer some questions from the comment section down below.
Let's try. Let's try.
So a user asks, is it possible to install Tag Manager in redirect link?
No, to be honest, it should be installed in some in website. So it's worth to be installed in website. So in redirect link, it's not. I cannot see any good purpose to do so. So it is for different purpose. Google Tag Manager. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So another user from India has a question. It's quite lengthy. He
Mm-hmm.
says, does installing Pixel and other conversion tracking codes through GTM instead of direct integrations, example like Shopify, impact the events fired and the results accuracy?
Yeah, good question. So first, you need to write down and to have all the information about the direct integrations. So to be sure that you are not interfering some of the already implementing things. So if you have, for example, Facebook tracking natively or some custom integration, and you want to keep it, it's better to keep it and just add Google Tag Manager and perform your additional actions and not overlapping the current implementation. So you should be careful most of the time and use it for advanced actions which are not implemented. So basically, in short, if you have a plugin and short way to do something, better to use it. Most of the time for biggest company like Shopify, so it should work because it is related to your specific case. But if you want to make it something which is more advanced, you can use Google Tag Manager, but be sure that you're not overlapping the current thing you have already. So
Awesome. Sarang, I hope that answers your question. Do we have any more questions before we do a follow-up webinar next time on Google Tag Manager? People seem to be liking it, and it was truly an in-depth webinar. Guys, those who have been watching it, I'm sure you got a ton of value on how you can install Google Tag Manager on your WordPress website, to know about triggers, variables, etc., and how you can set it up by using head and body tag and which event does what. We have covered a ton of topics in today's webinar. Guys, hope you have got a ton of value. If you got a ton of value, just leave an emoji in the comment section down below. We would like to see the emojis, and keep typing and tapping all the hearts on if you're watching this on Facebook. So Simeon is the founder of a tool called Voxpow, and what Voxpow does is it's a tool that can drastically improve the user experience and also the conversions on your website. And how it does is that you just paste a small floating window on the left side of your screen, and all the user, when he visits your website, all he has to do is click on it, say something, and the website magically redirects to that particular thing. For example, if you're running an e-commerce website, I guess many e-commerce people are watching this. So if you're running an e-commerce website, all you have to do is install Voxpow on your website and say jackets. The user just has to click on it and say jackets, and magically the website is redirected to the jackets page. Now the user has to choose the favorite jacket, and he just has to click it again and say checkout. it automatically gets into the checkout page. Guys, this eliminates all the middle pages where the user can get, distracted, or maybe, it eliminates all the pages and cuts down the sale time from like 5 minutes to like 2 minutes. I'm not sure of the user behavior timing, but yes, this will drastically improve your conversions. So that is the tool of Voxpow. Simeon, do we have a demo of the tool?
We don't, but we can easy make such. So yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
no,
I
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
no, yeah,
So
no
why
problem.
don't we go to the Voxpow demo? Why don't we go to the Voxpow website and
Yeah,
test
yeah,
out the tool in real time?
yeah, for sure. We will see if it still works. Kidding. So yeah, you see my screen. I hope.
Yes, yes, yes. It will work. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Come
let's
on.
try. Yeah, pricing. And yeah, we go to a pricing page, and here you see that there is a widget which is pulsing, and you grab basically the user attention, and you can click it and start navigate your website. So for example, if you go, for example, search for speech recognition, and depends what you set up for your website, you go to here in this example, you go to a blog page, but you can set to go to some other page and so on. You have commands also to set up. So the pricing was a comment, and every of those is going to Google Analytics to keep track what is going on your website. The next cool thing, as at least in my opinion, is to write with voice. Here, if you have a text field or something field which is not forbidden, you can use it to fill it up very fast. Let's try if this work good enough.
Yes, let's try it. Uh,
Yeah, but I press it one more time. So yeah,
okay.
basically you see the message, and it works when you open this text, and you can see here
We love Voxpow.
we we love Voxpow. We love Voxpow.
I think the Voxpow spelling, it should get it right. But the most of the spellings, you get it
Yeah,
right. And you can also, if the user has to fill up more forms, the user can actually, use the voice plugin that is just floating down below, and he can easily navigate your website, fill up the text corners, etc. And the best part of Voxpow is that it integrates with Google Analytics and shows you. And the Google Analytics dashboard actually shows all the queries that the user has searched in real time. It helps you understand your user better. And there you go, guys. That
yeah,
is Voxpow, a tool that can actually improve your conversions and enhance the user experience. If a site like Google has implemented and understand the importance of voice search, why don't you implement a voice search on your own website? All I'm saying is try it out. You have 60 days risk-free guarantee, and if you don't like the tool anytime, you feel free to refund it. But give us the feedback, because a feedback, and that's what we are here for in PitchGround. As Graham said, it's one big family. We are here to learn from each other, give feedback, and grow. And that's what PitchGround is actually about. If you have any more questions regarding Google Tag Manager, regarding Voxpow, feel free to reach out to us anytime. And if you lost the webinar in between, like if you were confused anywhere or we went too fast, you can always watch the webinar on YouTube, on Facebook. It'll be available live. You can, if you don't find the link, just reach out to us and we will give you all the links to all the webinars with Voxpow. Simeon,
yeah,
that was an amazing webinar today.
yeah. I really like to hear that. So yeah, the next webinar will be Also the so amazing. I hope so. I'll give my best to do so. So
Yes. So we guys, as we said in the first, the next webinars are about technical SEO. They're all about since you voted for tag manager follow up, we're gonna go into tag manager as well. So yes, we have ton of value coming in. But for today, I hope that all your questions have been answered. I really hope that you got some value out of this webinar. And I want you to install Google Tag Manager on your WordPress website. Because what happens is that if you go and implement this, what you saw in the webinar right now, you can have doubts. And these doubts, we're going to clear these doubts in the next webinar. That's right. We are here
yeah,
to solve all your queries. We are here to make you grow on online. We are here to make your business grow online. And that's what we strive at Team PitchGround and Team Voxpow. So thank you so much for attending today's webinar. It was fun. Thank you so much for all the engagement, all the love, all the hugs. And yes, we'll see you in our next webinar.
thank
But
you.
thank you so much, Simeon. But before we go, we're launching a tool about recruiting, hiring, etc. on this Friday. That is 2 days from now. It will solve all your hiring queries forever, hiring problems that you face, like applicant tracking, keeping up with many applicants, keeping up with, tracking all the uh, people who have applied for the job, posting one-click posting to all job boards, etc. That tool is literally going to solve all your hiring problems forever. So if you're a business owner who's hiring, we're going to see you on the Friday's webinar where PitchGround is going to be launching a tool about hiring. It's called Recruitees, and I'm sure I'm going to see you in that webinar. So thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We hope you got some value out of it. Have a great evening, guys. Have a great day for the users in America. See ya. Bye.